My wife used to visit my sick mother every week. When I hadn't seen her daughter for 8 months, she was the most late night of my life. The night I realized my wife had been visiting my sick mother every week without telling me was the same night I understood I had been missing something far more important than time. It wasn't anger that hit first. It was confusion, because for 8 months, I hadn't even seen my own daughter. My name is Daniel Whitaker. I live in Greenwich, Connecticut, in a quiet street where every house looks perfect and every family pretends nothing is broken. I work in private equity, long hours, constant travel, the kind of job that convinces you you're building a future while quietly taking you away from it. My wife, Claire Whitaker, had always been different, grounded, patient, the kind of person who notices things you don't, especially when you stop looking. 8 months earlier, I made a decision that I thought was temporary. A strategic separation. That's what I called it. Claire didn't argue. That was the part one misunderstood the most. She didn't fight. She didn't demand. She just adjusted. And I took that adjustment as agreement. Our daughter, Lily Whitaker, stayed with Claire. At first, I told myself it made sense. Stability. Routine. School. I would visit soon. That's what I said. Then weeks passed. Then months. And somehow, soon, turned into silence. Work filled the space. Meetings, flights, deadlines. It's easy to convince yourself you'll fix things later when nothing immediately forces you to stop. My mother, Eleanor Whitaker, had been ill for nearly a year. Her health had declined slowly, then quickly. Hospital visits became regular, then necessary. I visited when I could, but when I could, became less frequent than I want to admit, because there's always something else that feels urgent. Until something happens that makes you realize what actually was. One Thursday night, I got a call from the hospital. My mother had taken a turn. Nothing dramatic, but enough. Enough for the doctor's tone to change. I drove there immediately. The drive felt longer than usual. Or maybe I was just paying attention for the first time in a while. When I arrived, the nurse recognized me. "You're Daniel," she said. I nodded. "She's been asking for you," she added. That sentence carried weight, because asking implies waiting, and waiting implies absence. I walked into the room quietly. My mother was awake, tired, but aware. She looked at me and smiled. "You made it," she said. It sounded simple, but it wasn't. "I'm here," I replied. I sat down beside her. We talked about small things, safe things, because big things are harder to say when time feels uncertain. Then she said something that shifted everything. "Claire was here this morning," she said. I paused. "Claire," I repeated. "Yes," she said. "She comes every week." The words didn't register immediately, because they didn't match what I believed. "She comes every week?" I asked. My mother nodded. "She sits with me, brings me things, talks to the nurses. She's very kind." I didn't respond, because my mind was trying to catch up with something my instincts had already understood. Claire had been here. Consistently, quietly, without telling me. Before we go further, I want you to think about this. If someone continues to show up for your family when you don't, what does that say about them? And what does it say about you? Because that question stayed with me. Long after I left the hospital room, I drove home differently that night. Slower, not because of traffic, because of thought. Because 8 months is a long time to not see your own daughter. And now I was learning that my wife had been showing up in places I hadn't. Not for attention, not for recognition, just because it needed to be done. When I got home, the house felt unfamiliar. Not physically, emotionally, like I had been absent longer than I admitted. I sat in the living room. No TV, no phone, just silence. Because silence forces clarity, and clarity is uncomfortable when it arrives late. I picked up my phone, scrolled through old messages. Claire's name appeared less frequently over time. Not because she stopped reaching out, because I stopped responding the same way. Short replies, delayed responses, missed calls, patterns I hadn't noticed while they were forming. At 1:17 a.m., I called her. She didn't answer, which made sense. It was late, but that didn't stop the feeling that I had already missed something important. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Just lay there thinking. About time, about choices, about how easy it is to believe you'll fix something later, until later becomes too late. The next morning, I drove to Claire's house. Not announced, not planned, just decided. When I arrived, I sat in the car for a moment. Because showing up is simple. Explaining why you haven't is not. Before I got out, I want to ask you something. If you had ignored something important for months, would you try to fix it immediately? Or would you hesitate, knowing the damage might already be done? Because I hesitated. Then I got out of the car. I knocked on the door. Claire opened it. She looked the same, but not the same. Calmer, more distant, like someone who had already processed things you were just beginning to understand. Daniel, she said, no surprise, just acknowledgement. Can we talk? I asked. She stepped aside. Qley. The house felt warm, lived in, stable. Everything my place no longer felt like. Then I saw her, Lily, sitting on the floor with a book. She looked up. For a second, she didn't react. Because recognition takes time when absence has been long. And she stood up slowly. Dad, she said. That word hit harder than anything else that day. Hey, I said quietly. I didn't move immediately, because I didn't know if I had the right to close that distance so quickly. Then she walked toward me. Not fast, but not hesitant either. And that was enough. I knelt down. She hugged me. And in that moment, I realized something simple. Time doesn't stop, even when you're not there. Claire watched quietly. She didn't interrupt. She didn't comment, because some moments don't need words. Later, we sat down, just the two of us. I didn't know you were visiting my mother, I said. She nodded. I didn't think it needed to be announced, she replied. It wasn't defensive. It was factual. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. She looked at me carefully. Because you weren't asking, she said. That answer stayed with me. Because it was honest in a way that didn't accuse. It just reflected. I should have been, I said. Yes, she replied. No anger. No softness. Just agreement. We sat in silence for a moment. I missed a lot, I said. She didn't respond. Because that wasn't something she needed to confirm. I don't expect things to go back to how they were, I added. That would make sense. She nodded. That's true. But I don't want to stay where we are either, I said. That was the first real statement of intention. Not explanation. Not regret. Direction. She looked at me. Not emotionally. Just attentively. What does that mean? She asked. It means I want to start showing up, I said. For Lily. For my mother. For you. The words felt simple, but they carried weight. Because saying them is easy. Living them is not. Claire didn't respond immediately. Because trust doesn't rebuild in conversation. It rebuilds in consistency. We'll see, she said. And that was enough. Because sometimes the only honest answer is uncertainty. That night was the longest of my life. Not because of what happened. Because of what I finally understood. That absence isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, gradual, unnoticed, until you see the difference between who showed up and who didn't.